I do not know a single person, blue collar service company, that sold for 20 million and up that did not acquire other companies.
You got a company phone number, and if it gets one call a week, that's worth something because that's a consumer with an intent to buy.
I love mergers and acquisitions. I'm probably thinking about it 2 hours a day. It's like Monopoly.
The smartest business people are the ones that understand leverage. And when I say the smartest, they understand leverage, which allows them to buy back time and to grow faster so that they don't have to have all of the skill, all of the genius.
Nobody else was doing it.
America's backbone was built on blue-collar business grit, grind, and muscle. This is where you stop working for the business, and the business starts working for you.
Blue Collar Millionaires, Chris and I back again, another podcast. This time we're virtual. Chris is in Mississippi, I'm in Atlanta. We can't always be together, but I know you guys like these podcasts. We want to keep pumping them out. Talking today about one of my favorite subjects, Chris, too, mergers and acquisitions. Not only just buying a standalone business, but adding on to your own business. It's called bolt-ons or roll-ups, depends on what you're doing. You could be adding a new service. So I'll talk about a story about that. Or you could just be adding, like what I did. I had a landscaping business. I wasn't even that big. I was a young guy in the 90s, and I used to roll up other landscapers' routes. And it was a very easy way. And the way I did it, I'll just get into it. I would start contacting them in the winter. I would be talking to them in November and December, essentially looking for guys who were burnt out. Back then, nobody wanted to be a blue-collar landscaper guy. They all basically didn't go to college. It wasn't sexy. It was looked down upon. So I felt that. And I didn't think that about myself at all. So I used to talk to them. And of course, they'd always start high. They'd think something that was, I wanted to buy for 15 or 20,000 was worth 60. And I would get them off that very quickly with some time and letting that winter sit in. It was a great thing because every year I was growing on my own, but you'd have these bumps. And I always got some type of seller financing.
I think we got to realize that there's assets to every company, right? And whether you're big or small. So, I mean, you got a company phone number, and if it gets one call a week, that's worth something because that's a consumer with an intent to buy when they're making a phone call to a company. So even at one call per week, there's a level of value there. Then you've got if there's any team members, you got your team members. Then you've got a customer database that you can reach back out to. You've got the equipment, any equipment that you're buying. Because I remember when I was a kid, we moved over to a new town. My dad went to the auction block as a restoration company. That's one reason that I'm in restoration now is because I got that exposure as a kid. And he bought a phone number. And he bought equipment. There wasn't customer contacts in a database. There wasn't a team. It was pretty much this guy, and he would just go hire laborers as he needed it. But he was in it tight, so he sold the equipment off, but it came with a phone number, and that phone number instantly rang. And so he had work immediately when he took over that phone number and ported it into his cell phone at that time. You know, we just got out of the bag phone stage. So, but he was still getting phone calls. And then he found someone that was educated in the restoration industry and partnered with that dude on profits so that he would bring his knowledge because he had a phone call bringing leads in constantly. And I think that's what we forget is there's assets to all these. And you were just savvy enough when you were young, you saw it. You was like, dude, there's routes right here. This is money. Let me take over.
Yeah, I wanted some more things. I wanted the customers. I wanted their truck that had depreciated a lot, but was still good. I wanted their trailer. The trailer might cost back then $2,000 new. What are they going to sell that for back then? There was no Craigslist. I want that thrown in. I want the mowers, a couple Bobcat mowers on there, weed whackers. Give me the whole package. But then I also want your two guys that are doing the route. Maybe they're doing it with one guy. Good. I'll fill that spot in. If I'll pull a guy off another one of my routes, you're now running this route. I was incentivizing guys back then. We got to retain these customers. We got to help them. This is how you're going to make more money. It just seemed like such an easy way to do it. And then I had this mentality back then of taking over neighborhoods. I knocked on every door. If I got in a neighborhood, I got a foothold in there. So I'm going to knock on the doors. I used to call them reverse yellow pages. So I now take on somebody who's got 16 in one neighborhood. There's 42 houses. I'm probably going to turn it into 27.
Yeah.
And I'm already there. So if I'm doing it at $40 back then, it's high profit because we're already down the street. Half the time we were doing 5 in a row. Boom, just mow out the backyards in front and knock them out. So I think everybody should be doing that, thinking about that. They should be calling, especially in the winter, contacting all the people in their business, Be friends with them. You're not taking advantage. You can help each other out. Start putting it in their mind. If you feel like they're burnt out, if they're a young guy, start asking, do you want to do this for the rest of your life? That's sort of the questions I was asking these guys. You really want to do this? It's hot out there. I'd start doing it. But older guys, you can talk about, what's your exit plan? What are you going to do when you sell? You'll find they don't have one. Start becoming that exit plan for them. Just basic conversation. If not, you become friends and, you might help each other and have somebody to go to dinner with. You don't have to compete with everybody.
And also, let's take our windshield business, for instance. Another asset is we had a system. None of us ever installed windshields before. Me and you have never installed windshields. Our operating partners got a crash course from the team members that were installing the windshield so they would understand the process. But there was a system there. And this system wasn't documented. It wasn't like wrote down on a document in hard copy or in digital form. But there was still a system because they went out daily. They did this process. And regardless, subconsciously, they were walking a system. So we purchased a system that we were able to come in, and then we added new systems to it and scaled it with those new systems. So there's so much value that allows you, like that Disney World pass, that fast pass you can get, you skip the line with it. This is why you've got several folks, Kevin, from the past where you've seen people grow extremely fast in a very short period of time because they were able to skip having to acquire the people, the leads, the equipment, and all of those things you got to get when you scale by just grabbing an existing business. Maybe it was not fancy, but they could plug it in. They took a little bit of that existing business, a little bit of their business, merged it together, and all of a sudden you double the business or more.
Here's a powerful line for you. Of course, there is somebody, and there's plenty of them. I just don't know them. I do not know a single person, blue collar service company, that sold for 20 million and up that did not acquire other companies, did not go get competitors and pull them in. I don't know one. Chris, you know so many of the guys I know because I ask them all the time. Sometimes I find out they got 7 of them, 4 of them. It's never one either. I also don't know anyone who only got one. But these companies have a $6 million value. They're worth 6 million. Maybe they're doing 1 million EBITDA. Then they go grab a company that's doing 3 million in revenue, another one that's doing 2 million, another one that's doing 800,000, another one that's doing 4 million. And they put it all together, and all of a sudden they got an $20 million company. They grow it over a year. Boom, $24 million exit. That's a much, much faster way. And I want to give a quick case study here of how people can do it with a bolt-on, a different line of work. This is a landscaper. I knew him, talked to him, gave him, it's not about me, but I gave him an idea because I was doing gutters and he was asking. He had a landscaping business. 70% of it was maintenance, 30% was hardscape. He was over like 4 different affluent towns in one area. And I told him about gutter cleaning, and I said, there's a lot of gutter guys out there. They got like 150 accounts, and it's very seasonal. This is a northern state. I said, you should just contact them in the winter. So he started doing that, literally off Google, looking at reviews. He ended up rolling up 1, 2, I think 4 of them, all in that area. About 80%, 70 or 80% of his customers were in that 4 affluent area. It's a unique spot where all the money's over like 7 or 8 towns, and then it's not much around there. And he went in there, did the gutters with his guys. He never went on a roof. He was in his late 40s, made money off that, and then automatically contacted them, knocked on the door, pulled them into his maintenance thing. Not everybody, but he like quadrupled his business over 4 years. So he made money on the gutter because that was paying for himself. He buys a standalone gutter business. He had a little bit of cash. He did some seller finance. He buys these guys out who are struggling, but they got 150 customers. He takes that 150, he turns 100 of them into lawn maintenance customers, or 80 of them. Then he starts doing the lawn maintenance for them. Then he turns 25% of those into hardscape things. He's doing walkways, he's doing mulch jobs, he's doing planting jobs. And he did it 4 times over, built a business, quadrupled it in sales, sold it, moved to Florida. But there's nothing crazy about that. Somebody like, how do you do all that? He didn't do it in a week. He didn't do it in a month. Did it over like 6 years.
Yeah,
Not super aggressive. Just calling, talking to people, giving them outs. Nobody else was doing it. I remember he said to me, the line he says, are people dumb to this? They're not onto this? Nobody's doing this? I said, nobody's doing this.
No.
People are like, oh, PE's calling all these companies. They're not calling guys with small companies like that. Those guys never get a call. It's the first and last call. He did it. He didn't want them to be huge. He liked these guys. Because he looked at it as, I'm going to make money on 150 gutter things, but I really just want to line up 75 maintenance things so that I can do hardscape for him too. He won 3 times. And that's a different line of business. Whereas other guys, he could have called landscaper guys too. He was doing that too. I think he did acquire one on that as well. But this is a really easy way. It's just smart. It's savvy. Chris, when we were talking about how can you go about it, there's 3 ways to do it. You can do it yourself. You can go to biz by sell. Don't do that, because you're never going to get guys, ones in your area, and it's a bunch of bullshit. And then you could use somebody like a buddy of ours, Kyle Stearns, to do it. How would you do it if you were doing it yourself?
Yeah, if you're doing it yourself, you're literally going to have to skip trace. And skip tracing can have different forms. I mean, you can hop on Google, you can search the industry. So, roofer near me, landscaper near me, whatever it is that you're looking for. And then you can just start calling those businesses and get to the owner. The smaller businesses, the owner is still answering the phone call that's running to their cell. That's one way. You can sit there and you can use an AI to skip trace. And then there's actual skip trace services where you can purchase a list and it's going to give you the contact information, the company information, all that information that you need to know to be able to make those phone calls. But that's labor intensive, and you're probably running your business right now. And if you're running the business and you don't have a bunch of free time, there's a better way to do it.
Yeah, I like that way, and you could do it, and that's essentially what I did. But here's another angle you could do, because if you're calling a competitor you don't know, there can be pushback, because it's a little ego thing, like, who are you to be buying me? I remember I got that back. I was this kind of young, brash kid. I remember one guy was like, who the fuck do you think you're buying me? I'd buy you. But of course he didn't want to do it. He never thought about it. But we ended up becoming friends. But that's not the point. But another way is, there's a guy in our group. He's a buddy, Kyle Stearns, Stern and Oaks. You can see him. You'll see him in here. He's been super successful creating cold outreach teams in different lines of business. Built a $50 million business with his father and his brother. Real deal. Vin Diesel used to work for them doing cold calling. Yeah, it's a pretty cool story. It's been around forever. He took that skill set and he now finds businesses for people. So say you're in Wichita, Kansas, and you're that landscaper I'm talking about, and you want to have ones. You can hire him. There's no money up front. He charges on the back end 2%. And say he goes and finds you $1 million business. First of all, he's going to get you that. You're probably going to get it for $1 million instead of $1.2 million. And then he charged you 2% on the back end of closing. So $1.20 million. But you could have him doing that. I already know, because I believe in him and I know what his track record is. If somebody goes and does that, they're going to have growth. He's going to bring you deals with the profit and loss already done, the balance sheet. Here's the package. They want to talk to you. They're interested. And then it's up to you to make that happen. So that's 3 ways to do it. I love mergers and acquisitions. I'm probably thinking about it 2 hours a day. It's like Monopoly.
This last point is how real estate investors do. They have a wholesaler, that's the Kyle, that's going out and doing all the hunting. And then the investor is focused on the actual investing. So the hunter, the wholesaler, Kyle, brings the deal to them and says, hey, here it is. You like it? Man, yeah, I like it. And then they take over and they move forward. So, I mean, that's how my real estate comes in now. I'm not out building my portfolio by hunting. I've got someone that loves to hunt, and it's a wholesaler that just constantly is sending me deals, and I'll look at them. And when I say constantly, I'm not talking about I'm getting 100 deals a day. I'm talking about I'm getting 1 or 2 deals a week. So it's not overloading my brain capacity and decision-making skills. And I'll look and I say, yeah, I like this area. Then I'll dig in a little deeper and I'll say, okay, what's the price? And I decide if I'm moving forward on it or not. I still get to do my daily operations on everything else. Having a hunter, a wholesaler, a Kyle Stearns in your back pocket has its place for many people, just like my wholesaler on my real estate side of things.
Yeah, great analogy. You're doing it. Mike Burns, before he got to Ohio, he never did a deal. I guess it was all wholesale, was bringing him deals. He was building his whole portfolio off that. It's smart because he wanted to be in the trenches on real estate and doing the work and not trying to find deals and going back and forth to sellers. So he's outsourcing it. It's what we always teach, is outsourcing people who have more technology, more data, more systems in place, and then, hey, give me the deal. Stay in your genius. So it works both ways. But you're like I was when I'm young and you don't mind getting on the phone with people and talking to them and texting them, then do that.
Look, the smartest business people are the ones that understand leverage. And when I say the smartest, they understand leverage, which allows them to buy back time and to grow faster so that they don't have to have all of the skill, all of the genius. So, I mean, when you can plug leverage in to help you lift bigger lifts, that's exactly what you should be doing. So the wholesaler is a piece of leverage. Hiring a team is leverage. Other people's money is leverage. Other people's knowledge is leverage. It goes through every portion of your life if you use
And
it.
it's not a full-time thing. So speaking of our windshield business, our partner, Matt Nettles, he's good at this, good at reaching out, talking to, building relationships. He had more than one person trying to sell their business to us. Remember the old guy? He was trying to do it. And then we just had this surge in another vehicle within our company that took off, that we wanted to have all our focus on that. The guy was basically like lowering the price to get us to acquire him. We didn't want it. It was a good deal. It could have worked, but we just had other stuff. So he was just doing that daily, every once in a while, make calls, talk to people, always asking everybody he was talking to about, what are you going to do? Would you ever thinking about selling everything? You have to plant that seed and let people know you can do it. If you do that, they'll come back to you. That was my experience. That was everyone's. But you can also reach out to somebody like Kyle Stearns. He's in our Facebook group. You can DM me. I just like it. That is the path to least resistance. Chris knows it. I know it. We know guys. Everybody we know had big exits. They did it.
Yep, agreed. Next week, leaving bodies behind. You made a post on this. We decided we'd elaborate on it on a podcast.
I did a lot of things over the last 36 years. When I look back, there's a lot of bodies in there. I'm talking about divorce, maybe some alcoholism, fractured relationships, lack of sleep, health. Sometimes I think I look like I'm 65 when I'm 53. That's how it goes. And Chris and I know a better way now because we're doing it with younger partners. And I think about it like, we're out to lunch the other day with these guys. They were chilling.
Yeah.
There's no way at 33, none. I'm sitting there on a Wednesday for 2.5 hours eating lunch and shooting the shit. No way. I couldn't do it. I would have had 17 phone calls. It would have been chaos. Don't have to be like that.
Tune in for next week. We're going to have a good episode there. If y'all got questions about how to purchase businesses, how to do roll-ups, how to grab someone else's phone number to add leads to your existing business, reach out to us. We'll make you connections. Boardroom Elite, if y'all haven't checked it out and y'all want to be able to get more relationship, collaboration, get around other business owners that understand where you're at, because we've got so many inside of Boardroom Elite at this point, there's not one person in there that would find a situation that no one's been in before. I mean, business is just stages, and it just repeats its stages with more zeros behind it as you're growing.
Yeah, and Boardroom Elite, we're going to be in Chicago, July 17th and 18th. It's only for Boardroom Elite members, but we do that 3 times a year in-person meetup. Chris and I are both big proponents of meeting up in person. It's going to be Chris and I, Ricardo Torres, and a bunch of the members sitting around talking about just like stuff we do this on podcast. If you're like I was and Chris was, you don't want to talk to your buddies about, they don't like their girlfriend, or they don't like their job, or they want to tell you about 17 different players on a sports team. I don't care. I want to talk about business. I want to hang out with this. And everybody's helping everybody. There's no ego. Don't think, oh, this guy did this and I didn't. It's not like that. It's all positive. Everybody pushing each other forward. It's been a massive growth factor for myself and Chris in other groups we were in. So we created our own and we figured out what we like best. Some of the stuff we don't like. There's no salesy stuff, none of that. It's just people helping each other.
If you want to find more ways to really talk shop, Boardroom Elite is the other way. Go to bluecollarmillionaire.net. You can see how to get linked up into that and get more information. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and don't miss us next week. It's going to be a good one.